Okay, we are back here on Liquid Lunch. I've never said that before.
I knew.
Okay, Liquid Lunch, and we have, of course, Jeanette Burke with the Magnetic Marketing Moment. And Jeanette today is going to talk to us about psychographics, marketing, and pop culture. So how did this come to be at the top of your mind this week, Jeanette?
Well, I'm glad you asked me that, David. Every time I come on here and do my Magnetic Marketing Moment, I put a lot of consolidated effort and thought into covering a different marketing subject. And I often look into my repertoire of coaching topics that I work with clients on, because I do cover like every marketing topic you can think of in my coaching program, the Magnetic Marketing PR Process, which of course corresponds with the Magnetic Marketing Moment. And when I start working with clients, much to my surprise, one of the most fundamental things of marketing they can't answer for me is who is their ideal target?
Yeah.
And who should be buying their products and services. And they work so much on assumption. And it's so dangerous, because ultimately, if you're doing that, you're not going to have structured marketing. And unfortunately, it can lead, and often does lead, to business demise. And it's such an easy thing to correct, to know who really needs you and your products and your services rather than assuming it.
Okay.
So I guess,
how do you go about finding out who needs you?
Yeah. So you have to determine your place in the market, number one. You have to determine who has a need for your service or your product. And you also have to become more of a specialist than a generalist. So let me illustrate what I mean by that. For example, you're a mortgage broker, and there's many, many, many mortgage brokers out there. But you may have a particular way of approaching the mortgage business, or deciding that you only want to work with first-time buyers or something of that nature, which would make you more of a specialist than a generalist. And it would also help you to target your marketing efforts accordingly. And you know, I often probe people to find out, like, where are their likes and interests, and why do they want to go in a particular direction over another direction. That is something that only you can answer from within. So all you have to look inward to sometimes get at that.
Right.
But definitely when you're starting a business, you really want to understand, you know, who do I want to be servicing? What is the need for my marketing product, or my product or service? And understanding that when you do create a product or service, customers are only going to buy it for 3 reasons. The first reason is that it solves a basic need. The second reason is that you are a solution to their particular problems, and that's really the way you want to market yourself, as the expert problem solver to their particular problem. And then the last reason they want to buy from you is because they want to feel good, and they want to know that your product or service can somehow make their life easier. So again, let me illustrate what I mean by that using myself as an example, okay? Originally, when I started my business many years ago now, 16 years ago, I was Primetime PR, and it's a PR agency. And while it still exists in a small form, initially when I made that agency, I had already been working with bigger agencies, and I knew things about those agencies that were not happening for smaller business people. So I decided to create an agency, which I called it a boutique agency, and I narrowed it specifically to the needs of a smaller business person. Even though I did work with bigger companies and some non-for-profits, primarily it was geared to service a target niche that had never been serviced before.
Being the small business person.
Yes, and I sort of took all the what goes on in a big firm and all the way they operate, and I emulated the model and brought it down to a different level for smaller businesses, that they could participate in it and really get what PR could do for them and their businesses. And I had a lot of years of success at that, but I grew, and I kept growing, and I kept changing, and my lifestyle kept changing, and so did my clients. And at some point it became more feasible, having done a lot of the work anyway, under the banner of PR, and I realized it was just a little bit more than that, to go offshoot it. And I became Jeanette Burke, your marketing magnet, and developed the coaching program around it to service a whole new array of clients and a whole new array of clients' needs based on price.
So how is the new direction different?
How is it different? Well, first of all, it's a new target focus. I primarily only now work with women entrepreneurs.
Okay.
So again, I'm trying to illustrate my point on how I'm segregating myself, market segregating myself.
Right.
I primarily work a lot with women entrepreneurs and women book author entrepreneurs. The coaching program is based on my years of experience as a marketing PR professional, and it does cover every aspect of marketing. So when I chose to model my business now based on the needs I just identified, which you have to be able to see how your business fits into that, I chose to be the problem solver to people who didn't have a voice or an understanding or an outlet to turn to. And as their marketing PR coach, I am now able to sit with them and go through every facet of their marketing with them so they can bring these different campaigns and strategies to life and fruition where they may not have had that before, because prior to me and prior to the program that I created, they didn't have a lot of choice. So I became a service provider to that particular need. The choice previously was books, CDs, workshops, which I'm not disputing they have their place, but they also have some limitations that people walk away and they don't have the information they need or enough practicality to be able to put things into place, programs into place. Moreover, there's no accountability because there's nobody sitting over with you. You know, you take the information, you go and you do what you can. And so that might have been limiting for them, and that might have prohibited them from actually putting certain marketing into place or discovering what's working for them and what's not. And other than that, what alternative do they have? Well, they have the alternative of going to a big PR or marketing agency where, you know, there are a lot of people there who can service their needs like myself, but they have to pay for that. And that doesn't come for cheap. So if you don't have a budget for that sort of thing, you're kind of going to be left by the wayside, right?
Right.
So what I decided was I created a coaching program to marry those two needs and to fit a particular niche and solve a problem for clients and make their life easier. So I actually cover two.
Okay, so you're saying your primary niche now, if I understand it correctly, is dealing with women book authors.
I'm saying that's my primary target market.
Okay.
My niche is being a problem solver to make their lives easier by providing them with a marketing PR coaching program that they have me and my expertise, my eyes, my hands, my ears, looking over them, helping them bring every step and stage of their marketing programs to light.
Okay, so you're saying any business person has to have a target market.
Yes.
And that target market should be very well defined.
Yes, and that would help them to master their marketing and gear their marketing accordingly. And that they have to understand when they create products and services, which of those three things are they meeting? Because that's fundamental. And once they have that mastered, they can then use it to create what we call target marketing segmentation, to go deeper in understanding who their actual ideal client is. And that's where we get into things like demographics, which we can talk a little bit about that, and then psychographics, and then how the pop culture can affect it. So do you want to switch now?
Well, I wanted to ask you, doesn't some of this stuff sort of happen by accident? Like, for example, you know, I mean, when you started, you probably would have never said, "I want my target market is women book authors." But presumably, your business somehow, maybe you picked up one or two clients in that area. You saw you had maybe a unique skill set to offer, and then you enjoyed. I mean,
it was a little bit more than that, though.
So okay? The chicken or egg?
And that's what I'm trying to tell you. That
right.
It should never be based on assumption. Before you start any business or create any product or service, you need to look within yourself and say, who am I best to service and why? Based on those three things, why people want to buy from you.
But it can evolve over time, right? Because
yes,
you know, we make plans and God laughs, right? Isn't that the saying? Right?
That's true, but that should not stop you from going and getting the research you need to make an exact target profile, or what we call target criteria, and to know your target by age, this is the demographic part.
So we want to know all this. So tell us how we determine this. And
how do you make the profile or the criteria?
Yeah.
You have to sit down and how does it benefit you?
Yeah.
It makes it so much easier to identify your clients and keep your business going.
Right.
To make it profitable. So the first thing you want to do after you figure out why you're doing what you're doing or why you've created this business and how you're going to have a particular service or product be sold based on need to your clients, you want to get really into what we call the market research or the market segmentation using things like demographics, psychographics, and geographics. Okay, so geographics is really simple. You have to understand, where do I want my business scope to be? Do I want to be national? Do I want to be international? Do I want to be local? And what is most realistic? Like, based on the service or the product that you're providing, who realistically is going to be your customer? Is it going to be somebody that's in your local community or neighborhood, or is it going to be somebody living in France? That's what you have to determine by geographics. And then after that, you can tie your marketing accordingly to that. Like, so for example, if you decide that your target market is primarily local people, then obviously networking would be probably one of the better marketing strategies that you would want to employ, because it would get you out there interfacing with people in your own community. If you're, however, selling more internationally or nationally, you might want to look at some other strategies, including internet marketing, because you have to reach people who are in different time zones, different parts of the world, and find a way to reach them and resonate with them and get them on board with you.
Okay, so that's your geographic.
Yeah. Now the demographics, this is very important, and it's the prelude, the predecessor to psychographics. And the demographics is really all the research you can gather on your client or your potential client, and it's things like their age, their income level, their education level, their religion, if they're single or married. All these type of things are statistical information you can have to develop a target profile or a target criteria in which you say, I will only work with women between the ages of 25 to 40 who are, highly educated and who value this, and this. And it will also help you to determine their preferences. But like I said, this is...
Well, how do you come to that? Do you
we'll
test
get to
who's
that.
Using your service?
Yes. First of all, let me answer two things. First of all, the demographics are the stats, the research stats that you can collect at your local chamber of commerce, at a local library, anything like that. And then you want to go one step further into the psychographics, because it's not enough just to understand who your customer is in terms of the statistics that make the profile or the criteria. You have to go one step farther, which is the psychographic element, which gets you inside their head. And by that I mean you have to understand, what are their lifestyle choices? Where do they spend their weekends? What type of things do they like to do? What is their buying power? How do they choose to buy? And you can learn a lot about your targets this way by getting into that type of information, and also determining where are they, what are they reading? How much are they online? Are they online?
So what TV shows are they watching? Surveys of existing customers?
You would do surveys.
Customers?
That's one way of getting the information. Asking is another. The third is to create a target profile and try and collect as much information in the research about that prior to that, and then create a client criteria, which again I was trying to explain to you. I will only work with this, and this based on this information and based on who I am and who I resonate with, so that I have to get inside their minds. Another way of doing it is to turn to the pop culture and see what the pop culture can teach you about your clients. Hence I named the segment this, what pop culture can teach you about your target audience. So if you go into let's say Chapters or Indigo, and you see what are they interested in reading? If you see, let's say, a woman let's say you've determined your target market is women 20 to 40, and you see women 20 to 40, see what they're doing. What are they reading? What are they spending their time on? What is their day looking like? And the best person I know who really illustrated this point very well was a man named Jim Joseph, who was a marketing executive. He wrote a book called The Experience Effect. And it was amazing. He started his career with Johnson's, and his first job was to market Johnson's baby oil.
Right.
So he actually really got into the heads of his clients who were women, pregnant women. And how did he do that? He actually read the book, what to expect when you're expecting. So he got to understand the whole thing, like what's their rationale, what are they going through, what are their needs, and how he could sympathize with them or make his product sympathize with them, right?
Right, okay.
And then he also actually went one step further, and he started going with his pregnant friends to gynecological appointments to see what was happening, what they were experiencing throughout their various stage of pregnancies.
Right.
And later in his career, he did the same thing. He used that same pop culture testing to see how he could help teens, because he then became responsible for marketing acne medicine.
Okay.
So he got into the mindset of teens, and how did he do that? He started hanging out where teens were hanging out and gathering information, talking with them, ascertaining, what does it feel like when you have acne on your face? What are the emotions that are coming up? So he could become a problem solver to that.
Right.
And again, that goes back to the first three things I said about how you're going to tap into these needs, and how are you going to position yourself as the problem solver, and how are you going to choose, like how are your customers going to choose to want to buy your product or service.
Okay, but can a small business person afford to get into that level of detail? I mean, he's working for Johnson & Johnson or whatever. These companies have millions of dollars to spend on advertising.
Yeah, but he didn't get paid to do that. He did that in his own spare time just to make himself good at what he does. And in answer to your question, there's different levels for everything, but can a small person can they afford not to learn a lot about their target market, or can they just go by chance? That was how I opened the segment. If you do everything by chance, you can't do everything flying by the seat of your pants by chance either. I don't think it takes a lot of time and effort to put up a little bit of a survey or do some kind of research, or even go to a library and get books on stats of your ideal target profile. I don't think it takes a lot of time and effort to develop a target criteria or an exact target profile. And in fact, if you don't do it, I think it's going to hurt you and hinder you severely in the end, rather than
so this is
flying it.
This is part of the process. If somebody wants to develop a marketing campaign,
this is where it all begins.
You got to start with finding out who's the customer.
Exactly, and this is where it all begins. And once you have this kind of mastered and nailed, I believe the marketing doors open, just like the Red Sea parts.
Right.
Because when you know who your targets are, then you can now figure out how to get to them, how to reach them, how to resonate with them, and how to be in sync with them. So they choose.
I'm still waiting for the Red Sea to part, for those marketing doors to just fly wide open.
Maybe that's because you're still working under the premise that everybody wants your service.
No, I'm not. No, okay. I have a very defined niche.
Well, that's good. So then you've done some of your homework and know who your target profile is. And that's what it's all about.
Yeah. Well, it's a good start. It's a great start.
Yeah. So, and also there's other stats out there that will tell you specifically who you can get books that will, like, almost similar to what Sue is going to talk to us about today, or some of these other profiling campaigns that will tell you exactly who a particular dominant group is. Now, they did this in the United States, and they found there was 4 or 5 predominant groups that made up America, and I think it's true for Canada too. Like 40% were what we call achiever types, that were really interested in buying products and services that they resonate with, being family and community oriented. Another 10% were people who were called wannabes. These people are people that you would want to avoid, because they always want what others have, and they don't make for the greatest clients. They don't have money for services and products and sort of thing. They're always wanting to be something. Another type was the social pleaser, who was very concerned with environmental factors and only wanted to buy products that had environmental benefit. and that sort of thing. So it does help to know who you're dealing with. That's what it
I think we
boils
have to
down
go for a break soon, don't we?
Okay, great. So I just want to close it by saying that knowing all of this will definitely help you to make better marketing decisions and definitely help you to generate bigger, better
Well, I know,
revenues.
Jeanette, you did a great job helping me with the marketing of my TV show, which ultimately, as you know, got picked up by JLTV. So you definitely played a hand in that, and I would recommend your services to anyone.
Well, thank you very much, David. And I guess we're going to go to break now. We'll be back with Lorraine Leslie, publisher of Women with Vision magazine.